Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm based out here in California, which is why I'm saying good morning. But for those on the East Coast, good afternoon. My name's Mac McConnell. I'm the head of marketing here at RentReady. And the reality is, you have no interest in who I am or what I do. What you're interested in is, can RentReady help you, just manage turns better at your properties or through your company, et cetera. So let's get into it. So just a couple little reminders. We are encouraging everyone to ask questions. Just please go ahead and do that in the QA function within Microsoft Teams webinar. We will try to work those into our presentation or save them for the Q&A section at the very end. And as a reminder, we will send out a recording of this presentation to everybody who has registered. And then just to quickly review our agenda. I'll be talking for just a few minutes about how RentReady benefits the on-site team. And then I'll be handing it over to my colleague, Michelle, otherwise known as Shelley, to look inside the software a little bit and show you how a true turn service platform can sort of change, the day-to-day at your properties. And then we'll have about a live QA. We are all about speed. We are all about time. So we will be running on time and trying to move through this content or moving through this content quite quickly because we know how busy your days are. So let's get into it. So RentReady was founded with one idea in mind. We want to help property managers and owners increase their net operating income by shortening unit turn times. That's it. And so you will hear us consistently talk throughout this presentation about the importance of getting the turn process down to 5 days or less. And the biggest reason that we're pushing on that over and over again is because that frees up more rental days for your property, for your company. And that is one of the biggest drivers of NOI, occupancy. So let's talk a little bit about how RentReady helps with all of that. And to do that, I want to tell you a story about Shelley. And Shelley is the property manager for a 250-unit building in Dallas, Texas. She's moving 1,000,000 miles an hour, working to keep current residents happy and getting ready for new residents. But she has a big challenge. There are only so many hours in the day, and she is constantly having to balance the pressures to serve current clients with getting units ready for new residents. This often delays working on unit turns. And then when she finds the time to actually get to organizing those unit turns, she bumps into several more challenges. Current residents are always calling with new service. Do I focus on them? Do I focus on the future resident? There's delays scheduling the vendors, trying to reach the vendors, manage the back and forth, the phone tag that goes on all the time. Sometimes vendors aren't immediately available. They're booked up and there's no backup. This is the core turn vendor at this property. What if they're not available? Supplies aren't available. Our company runs into this all the time, helping out properties, whether it's paint, whether it's, something as basic as towel racks, light switches, you name it. Are the supplies on site to complete the turn? And then, the one we all have run into over and over again, that, when you walk into a unit, there's going to be more repair and maintenance needed than hoped. And we've all run into those situations. So Shelley's in this constant push-pull of current residents versus future residents. But then one day, corporate activated a new end-to-end turn service, RentReady. And Shelley can now use RentReady to order, staff, monitor, and complete unit turns at her Dallas properties, all with improved quality and a lower cost per turn. The RentReady platform gives Shelley the flexibility to order a basic turn, including paint, clean, and carpet, or go much, much bigger for that extra destructive resident, adding on a resurfacing or maybe moving to a full paint. Further, any issues that occur between Shelley and the Rent Ready Pro that's on site, can all be handled by our North Carolina Market Operations Center, who has one goal, and that is to get your turn completed as fast and as possible to your specifications. And that's a really important difference that Shelley discovered using Rent Ready, is that when Rent Ready pros come into her property, they already have full expectation of what they're going to see. They know the floor plans, they know what's important to Shelley, they know what the level of sort of turn coverage is, or turn care that's needed for each of those properties. So Shelley's pretty excited. And what she's most excited about is her new digital turn board. She always knows where everything is, either on her computer or on her mobile device. She can order new turns. She can watch all the work that's being completed in progress or completed at her property in real time. And if her property uses RealPage, Yardi, or an Entrada, those turns will be automatically scheduled the moment the resident declares their move out in the property management system. An even greater way that Shelley frees up time to focus on those current residents. Now, Shelley's loving the Rent Ready portal and her ability to customize all these services. She's able to stay on top of current residents' needs. She's watching all her services be updated in the portal as they get completed. And she's being celebrated by the leasing team for the speed that units are ready for that next resident. But we always ask the question, what about quality? How do we know that how can Shelley feel comfortable that the turns are being done to her level of quality? And that's where something very special comes in, because everything's looking real good, because Shelley knows that Rent Ready's quality check process is being completed on every service. So what does that mean? That means a Rent Ready Pro who's just finished doing a carpet clean needs to do a video call with one of our quality check analysts to review their work, not just to make sure that they've done the job, but they've done the job to Shelley's specification. And only until that quality analyst gives the thumbs up can that pro check out of the job and sort of hand that back to Shelley to make sure that it's ready for a new resident. So the quality check process is very important to Rent Ready, and another further way that we give Shelley confidence that the job is being done and done correctly the first time. The beautiful part about all of this is at the annual site summit, the EVP of operations reviews performance metrics, and Shelley's surprised to see that the Rent Ready dashboard comes up showing that the average unit turn across her properties is down to 5.3 days, and that her site's NOI has been able to improve by 8%. How? Due to the fixed costs of the Rent Ready service, no overages, faster turns, and new residents being able to move in more quickly. So so Shelley's sitting there, having been able to take care of all of her current residents, keep them happy, keep them staying in their units longer, and has been able to feel confident that she can outsource the turn process to Rent Ready because she's able to monitor all the work that's going on as part of her daily job. So really, what have I described here? I've described really what is the difference between Rent Ready and all the different ways that sort of turns are managed throughout the multifamily industry. On the one hand, we've got service contractors, what I call two guys in a truck. They will show up, do the job, but you aren't able to collect the metrics and the data or be able to pay them or do any of those things through a centralized software platform. The property management systems have all built-in make-ready modules in their software, but that doesn't, complete the picture. You can track and create cards and do all of that, but what about your labor? What about invoicing? What about credentialing and insurance? None of the property management systems are complete enough to manage that for all the vendors that are needed for unit turns. And then there are a few sort of digital turn boards out there. Call them project management software, call them sort of rebranded as digital turn boards. They've baked in a little bit of the service automation. They've baked in a little bit of the data and analytics, but they're still missing, a full labor force that can be selected by the pro or assigned out by RentRedi. They miss all the payments and the credentialing that's required to make sure you're confident that a pro is protected if they come on site and something bad happens, etc. So my big purpose here is to share that RentRedi really is a complete end-to-end solution that goes from the moment that resident moves out till that unit gets, approved for leasing during the walkthrough. And, we just handle all of that and give the property managers full visibility into all the work that's being done, when it's being done, and how much it's cost to get it done. So I just wanted to take a moment and anchor us all here today on sort of what is RentRedi, how does it benefit the site manager, and really reinforce for everybody that it's all about speed. If RentRedi or anybody else can get in and get out and get that unit back on the market as quickly as possible, it's going to have very positive financial benefits for your organization. So how's all this get done? I'm going to hand it over. We've got a pretty exciting moment here where we've got Shelley, also known as Michelle, in our office today to show you how the RentRedi portal has changed her daily grind and improved her property performance. And so what we're going to do for the next few minutes is jump into the RentRedi software and show you how easy it is to order a turn, monitor a turn, evaluate the quality of a turn, and then be able to see the metrics that we monitor and you should be monitoring to determine if your turn process is as efficient and optimized as possible. So Shelley, on that note, I'm going to hand it over to you to share your screen and talk a little bit about the RentRedi portal. Shelley.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mac. So we've talked a lot about inefficiencies that steal those valuable rental days and how RentRedi spots and tracks those inefficiencies to recapture NOI. So how exactly do we do that? Now, this story starts with the portal. Now, for those of you that already use RealPage, Yardi, or Entrata, we are a preferred partner, which allows us to automate the entire turn process and puts us on average at 3 to 5 day turns. Now, if you aren't using RealPage, Yardi, or Entrata, this portal is where we'll start Shelley's journey to rescuing NOI and reducing turn duration. So our portal can be accessed from your phone or desktop, and when Shelley logs in, she'll have visibility on every single site that she oversees and where her team stands on vacancies. Now, we'll be using a test property for today's example, and when Shelley logs in, she'll have visibility on every single site she'll have visibility on every single site within her portfolio, and she'll have the choice to filter between a calendar view or turn board view, which resembles that whiteboard most sites have historically tracked turns on. Now, big difference is everything is automated, and we get rid of some of that manual entry most site teams have to deal with. So the question is, how exactly do we handle turns faster at a lower predictable cost and in turn reduce vacancy loss? So RentRedi has a network of insured vendors, or pros as we call them, that we procure and we vet. They're all required to download our Pro app, and when they join our network, this is really the key to our automated scheduling. Now, each card on your board represents an individual service being conducted in a unit, and whether it's scheduled, in progress, or completed. Now, the beauty is these cards actually update in real time. So once our pro gets to the site and clocks in, these cards update to in progress. And once they clock out, it'll change to completed automatically. Now, as Mac mentioned before, they'll be prompted immediately to complete a quality check of the unit with our operations team. So when it comes to site team visibility, you know exactly where your team stands on a vacancy and how quickly they'll be able to move someone in. You also don't have to make those manual updates to your whiteboard that you typically have to do or spreadsheet, since it's all done automatically. So I know what you're all probably thinking. Every site does things so differently. How do we really capture that, right? Now, every community, every login, you're going to be given a few features, a few tools that'll really allow you to set this up for success and for exactly how turns are conducted on site. So what does that include exactly? So starting with our default turn duration on the top right, we all know how difficult it can be to hit a certain turn duration when you've got so many responsibilities on your plate already. On the top right-hand corner, you can actually establish what turn duration you need us to hit consistently, and your turn will automatically be scheduled within those days. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. But you can also drag and drop and rearrange your order of services, since we all know doing things in the wrong order can disrupt the flow of a turn and add a day. Now, lastly, we have a network of vendors, and the intention is to match you with folks you like. But the beauty is, in the meantime, while you get to know your contractors or pros, your turn duration, it won't be disrupted by someone being sick or on vacation. You always have backups, and you have about a million different ways to leave a note for them to tell them exactly how you want that turn conducted. So that could be communicating check-in instructions, or maybe communicating pet peeves that, we've grown to develop over the last few years. So no matter who we send out to that site, that contractor or that pro is going to get that note. Now, lastly, this template, it makes note of every single thing that's required in your turns, you'll notice. Even things you're doing in-house like a pre-walk or things that you're doing with other vendors, perhaps like flooring. The whole point is to make note of every little thing that historically could throw off your turn times and make sure those things get done directly after move out on the day it needs to get done. Now, in this industry, you work with several vendors at a time, and typically you have to deal with a stack of different price sheets, invoices, and so forth. So the beauty is, whenever we negotiate pricing, we standardize pricing, which means in a given market. Now, by the way, guys, this is all test pricing. This is all demo pricing. Now, no matter which pro we send out, your pricing will not change. And we can price by the state, we could price by the market, whatever saves you the most time. Now, the question really is, well, how do we actually get the turn scheduled? You're going to go back to your home page and hit that bottom right plus sign and hit new turn. Now, all you need in order to schedule a turn is three things. We need your unit number. We need your floor plan, which our sales team is going to go ahead and upload for you. We're going to make note of anything special like crown molding or high ceilings. And then lastly, we need that move out date to know when we can go ahead and get those turns conducted. And we'll use the 3rd as an example. Now, if you require POs, you can add it to your order and it'll directly tie back to that invoice, saving a little time it normally takes to match POs. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. For the sake of this example, we'll go ahead and hit I don't know. Now, here's where the magic happens. We have access to all our pros' calendars, which allows us to always have your painter or cleaner on the day you need them. So no more driving turns up due to vendor reliability issues. Now, because we have a network of vendors, you always have backup options in case your preferred pro has an emergency. So Mac touched on it. On that first available date, we're going to go ahead and schedule that pre-walk. Next, that paint. Now, you'll notice that we're scheduling based on that template we created in your property settings. And most importantly, we're getting it done within those 7 days as established and on that first day that that unit becomes available. I think we all know for every day a unit sits vacant, that's roughly $50 a day in vacancy loss. So not only can you get these units rented out more quickly, those $50 a day we've rescued adds up, driving up your NOI. Now it's as simple as clicking on your choice of contractor for the service, telling us what additional services you need, for instance, perhaps an accent wall or ceilings. And you'll notice that for every additional service we select, you're met with a shopping cart-like experience. So you know exactly how much your turn is going to cost before you even schedule it. Now, once you continue selecting your services, you're going to select your pro, tell us what you need underneath that service. You're going to do that for every single service that we defined in your turn process. And at the very end, all you have to do is hit that next button, and we're going to go ahead and automatically schedule that for you. You can also click that shopping cart, and it gives you a drop down of exactly what goes into your turn and how much it's going to cost before you even schedule it. Now, the second piece of the cost predictability puzzle, let's say that our painter gets on site and they notice that a repair needs to take place that wasn't originally caught in the pre-walk. We know you guys are busy, you've got a lot on your plate. Some things do get missed in that initial pre-walk. So we will send whoever you deem on site the primary approver a push notification to their phone with photos of what we want to get done, how much it'll actually cost, and they'll have the choice to approve it, deny it, or request additional information. So it's just another measure to protect your budget, give you some time back that would normally be spent communicating back and forth with the contractor. Now, if you do require a human being's input, every site will be given an account manager to support them through any questions or concerns. So to tie this all up, we don't just want to say we perform turns faster and at a lower cost. We want to make sure we have the data to prove it. So shifting over to our management dashboard, you'll get access to exact data surrounding average cost per service, by property, average turn durations across the portfolio. We want our partners to feel confident in calling this a win, and there's no better way to promote that than to have exact data that comes directly from our portal and your site team's feedback. So guys, in a nutshell, this is how Rent Ready spots and tracks those inefficiencies to recapture NOI, leading to faster turns at a lower cost, driving up NOI. Mac, I'll let you take it away.
That was terrific, Michelle. Thank you. And folks, that's the power of Rent Ready, is when you apply software, some really talented individuals, and great partnership with our properties, we are able to get your turns down to 5 days or less, and in most cases at a considerably lower cost than what you're paying on the open market today. And so I wanted to open us up to some questions right now. And Shelley, I see a couple coming in right now. Question for you: what happens if a pro doesn't show up for a job?
Thanks, Mac. So if a pro does not show up for the job, we've got a full network of vendors and a full operations team in-house in our Charlotte office that's fully dedicated to mitigating any errors or any problems. So with that being said, let's say that your pro, maybe, they get a flat tire, maybe they're sick or they have a vacation coming up. We have a full team that's going to dedicate their time to making sure we get a pro there the day that we say we're going to.
Okay. And just to follow up on that, like you mentioned a couple different times that we're working with contractors in local market. So how do we know their availability, and how do we ensure that, we can get them on site, in move out plus one?
So we actually encourage our pros to submit their availability to us, and we have their calendar at all times. So some of the ways that we encourage them on the Pro app, it actually gives them their full calendar view of how much they get in terms of payment per service, and it really motivates them to be available on that day. Now, aside from that, every single pro has capacities established, which essentially means they work with our operations team to define their availability ahead of time, how much work they could take on in any given day, and we do that by market. Now, I've touched on the operations team a full time. You have a market operations manager that oversees an entire market, so they could really drill down and build those relationships with our vendors to ensure that they'll be available that day.
Very cool. And something else I saw here was you talked a lot, Shelley, about the add-on process. And one of the things that that we're always working for is speed. So how does one of our pros saying, hey, I've come into this unit, a standard paint's not going to do it. There's, smoke damage on, smoking, signs of smoking on the ceiling, or just, extra scratches, all the stuff that we're used to. So that pro needs to do a complete job, needs the approval for the add-on expense from the property manager. Can you talk us through how that really works, in practice with our properties?
Absolutely. So we've touched a bit on our pros being required to download a pro app. And really what we're speaking to is that communication that goes back and forth between your site teams and the pro. Where typically on site, maybe you're in the middle of a meeting. If you're on the maintenance team, you're probably working on a work order or you're focused on resident satisfaction. So instead of having to stop what you're doing, go to that unit, check out exactly what's being required of you, you'll get a push notification to your phone. It'll give you all the details that you need in order to make a judgment call on that service. So it'll include pictures, multiple pictures. It'll have that price point. So you get a bit of cost predictability and you could really protect your budget. And then it also allows you to approve it, deny it, or request additional information. So it reduces that time that's typically spent having to communicate with your pros. And it checks off some of those things virtually. That way you don't have to stop what you're doing in order to address another problem in another unit.
Terrific. And what happens if I'm working for a company where we are just very tight in our financial controls? Is it possible to get multiple layers of approval on something?
Absolutely. We know that people are busy on site, so there is a way on our portal to establish. There's really no limit, Mac. You can establish as many people in that add-on approval process.
Great, great. Well, folks, great to have you all here today, and thanks so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to learn a little bit more about RentRedi. That's everything we had to present to you today. We will be following up shortly with an email with the recording of this presentation. And if you've got any questions at all or want to talk in more depth about RentRedi, please visit rentredi.com and just click that request a demo button in the upper right-hand corner, and Shelley or one of her colleagues will reply and give you more information. So on behalf of all the folks at RentRedi, I want to say thank you again for your time. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and we wish you fast turns every day of the week, including Sunday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.